Hello and welcome to Lesson 4 in the Intermediate Programming with Scratch. You're going to see a few different things that we're going to be doing here in this lesson. The next two lessons, actually, we're going to go in depth of the block scripts that we're using with our spiral and our whirl. Just to give you an idea of what this thing does, though, we'll start. You'll notice our little whirl here that's changing colors is slowly going to glide and follow this mouse around once it gets to the point that it's gliding to. You'll notice our whirl is always going to point to the mouse, and it's going to adjust its size and whirl. But it's going to adjust its size by this loudness. So when it gets real loud, it's going to grow. And you kind of see it growing, and you see it pointing towards my mouse. And so that's what we've got going on here. So let's go ahead and stop this. And let's look at the blocks. Let's look at our spiral block. We've got our two processes going. One of these processes is, remember, when it receives this message from the start, it's going to broadcast that message. Once the spiral receives it, it's always going to point towards my mouse. And I got this from motion, point towards mouse. So it's always going to point towards my mouse. It's going to stamp itself. And then if the mouse is down, right? If the mouse is down, it's going to go to my mouse X and mouse Y position. And those are those internal variables that we spoke about a little bit earlier. And then it's going to change the image effect. You can't see it real well. I'm probably going to tinker with some of these numbers down here, though, so we can see this a little bit better. Another thing it's doing is it's only going to do this if the mouse value is above minus 150. So if it's above where my buttons are. So it's only going to happen up in here and not down in here. So that's kind of what we've got going on here. This little process here, what it's doing is it is setting the size based on loudness, and then it's doubling it so that you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to change that probably to 3. I'm going to triple it. And this is the actual value itself, just so we can see the visual of it. So let's go ahead and let's change it to 4 and just see what happens. It should blow it out pretty big. So like we mentioned, go ahead and tinker with this. Go ahead and tinker with this as you're building it. But let's kind of get the concepts down. I'm going to start this here again real fast and just see what happens. Here we go. Test. So it's kind of blowing itself out there. Good. That's good. And let's point that down. Test. We can even make that bigger if we wanted to. It's not quite as big as I thought it might be. So let's stop it. Let's take it times 5 maybe, or even 6. See if we get something halfway decent looking here. Clear that. Start it again. Test. There we go. So we're kind of getting something that looks kind of decent. Spiraling, it's growing based on the volume. Now you'll notice this size here is going to kind of give you a visual in terms of the percentage that this is growing by. And the loudness is just showing that we have our microphone on and that we can kind of see what's going on. That internal variable. We can actually turn this loudness off if we wanted to. So let's go ahead and do this stop. And how we do that, go to sensing. The only reason it's showing that is because I have this toggle. If I did that off, it wouldn't show it anymore. So you see now it doesn't show that. So that is our spiral. The next we're going to get into our little whirl. The next lesson we're going to go over the blocks with our whirl. So just to kind of recap, we're always pointing towards our mouse. So we've got our mouse sensing thing going here. The mouse down, if it's down, it's going to, and if it's above 150, minus 150, it's always going to go to that position, and it's going to create a little whirl effect when the mouse is down. And here we're just kind of outputting the size, setting the size, and then outputting so we can see it. So next lesson, we're going to go ahead and go over our whirl.